What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update. Quite a lot to get through today, actually. So let's start off with Tosin Adarabioyo. Santi Auna says a deal for rumoured Tottenham target Tosin Adarabioyo to join Monaco is almost dead. Fulham haven't responded to Monaco for several days as they prefer to sell to Tottenham, but the player only wants Monaco, so Tosin could leave next year on a free transfer.
So I haven't read a report yet that says Tosin wants to come to Spurs.
That's because there hasn't been one.
That's so. Do we really want a player who's not desperate to be, who doesn't really want to be here? That's also something to consider. Yeah, Tosin's a good player and also helps out with the homegrown quota. Obviously, he will be a good backup to what we have, but. If we don't, I know we could probably do a deal with Fulham, and apparently they got interest in Dyer. But if he doesn't really want to be here, if his heart's not set on coming to Tottenham, then maybe it's just a deal that we're forcing, and maybe we shouldn't really be doing that. I don't know.
Look, once he steps through the gates at White Hart Lane, he'll love being here, and the shaded stadium, the facilities, everything like that. But hand on heart, I promise you, I would prefer a Tosin that doesn't want to be here than a Dyer that does want to be here.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. But look, we have to see if we can get this deal done. Well, look, no, there's nothing to suggest yet that we've actually got a concrete offer because this deal was dead. I still got a feeling that deal to Monaco might get resurrected, because if he's really going to run the risk of going a year on a free, Fulham are a club that kind of need a fee for him, so they're going to want that. But we'll see how this develops, I guess.
Yeah, I also think Monaco are focusing on Flo Balogun at the moment, and they're going to pay quite a lot of money for him. They're talking in excess of 45 million, around the 50 million pound mark. So is there going to be any money left to even entertain a Tosin bid?
It's a good question.
Next up, let's talk about Pepe, a brand new name being linked to Spurs. Ebola says that Tottenham have submitted a bid in excess of 45 million euros for Pepe, including 15 million euros in goal bonuses, but face rejection from Porto, who are demanding a 70 million euro fee. Pepe played in 7 different positions last season, primarily preferring to play left winger, but Porto manager Sergio Conceição deployed him in multiple positions. He played left winger, right winger, second striker, right midfielder, left midfielder, right back, and also attacking midfielder. And despite the constant change in position, he has been one of the most consistent names on the starting lineup of the Portuguese club. However, he has bagged 5 goals and 9 assists after playing 45 games in all competition. The Brazilian still has 4 more years left in his current deal at Porto till June 2027, along with a release clause of 75 million euros, which is 66 million pounds. And Thiago Fernandes, apparently he's a tier 1 source, says that Porto turned down Tottenham's first proposal for Pepe, but the English club promised to formalise a new offer.
And Levy's very good at keeping his promises, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have to wait and see. But I actually like Pepe. I think he's quite a good winger, and I think that he actually fits the needs of the squad in terms of a winger who can play on the right and the left. A versatile player would really help supplement the forward positions. I don't think he's like an incredible player. I think he's a good player, and I actually think in terms of how we function, how Ange likes to play as wingers, he would suit that pretty well. But you are talking about quite a substantial fee for a player like him. So I think it does make sense, the signing, but I don't know if the fee makes sense.
But again, it's another one that predominantly wants to play on the left instead of the right. I mean, we've got so many of them in the squad now, and we've only got one out-and-out natural right winger. It's like what I said yesterday. I think if we're going to bring in a winger, we need to bring in one that's natural on the right.
I think he can play. He's played a lot on the right last season. From what I saw, though, he played actually more than anywhere last season. He played a right back. He played 13 games a right back, and given his versatility, he played, I think, 10 on the right, 10 on the left. So he's definitely very versatile. I think he is quite comfortable on the right. So I do think he can fill in there. But he says his favourite position is on the left. So that is something to consider as well.
Yeah, and that's similar to Manuel Solomon, who can play on the right as well, but his preferred position's on the left. Bryan Gil as well can play on the right, but his preferred position's on the left. I mean, we've got so many of them. The
difference between him and Manor, I feel, was that Manor has only played really a handful of games on the right. I think Pepe is more trusted on the right than Manor seems to have been throughout his career. So that's something to consider. But look, we'll see if this actually develops, because it's a lot of money. What are you saying? 45 million was 45 million euros.
Yeah,
rejected,
including add-ons. Yeah,
including add-ons. So, well, how much do they want? That you're talking about all of a sudden, Brennan Johnson kind of fee. You're getting near to that. And
well,
the only reason
the offer that we did is pretty much a Brennan Johnson kind of fee, just a tiny bit less.
So if you're, I would only assume we would go for this kind of deal if it's like a fairly cheaper option. I would have thought.
But it's not going to be a cheaper option. If they're saying that we're going to come in for a new bid and the old bid was 45 million euros, you got to expect the new bid's going to be 50, 55.
I do think it would be a good signing, though. I do think it would be a good.
But
signing.
like in terms of the squad where we're at right now. I don't know. I don't know too much about Pepe, but I mean, Brennan Johnson just ticks too many of the boxes in terms of the homegrown as well.
I guess it makes more sense if we're going to play Sonny more centrally. But if we're seeing Sonny as a winger, then it doesn't make as much sense. Brennan Johnson will probably make more sense.
Well, let's talk about Brennan Johnson now. And Tom Riley says that Tottenham will try and secure the signing of Nottingham Forest Brennan Johnson with a cash plus player deal. However, Tottenham are willing to do a cash only deal as well. Forest are looking for a fee for about £40 million for the Wales forward, who is also wanted by West Ham and Chelsea. They have also considered making a bid for the 22-year-old this summer, but have withdrawn their interest. And it is understood that the player's preference would be to move to Tottenham. Simon Jones saying Tottenham are preparing to launch a bid for Brennan Johnson. Chelsea and West Ham have been considering bids for the player, but the player's preference hasn't put a halt to that. They are readying an offer which could yet include players, as Forest are struggling to land all their targets. And Miguel Delaney says that Tottenham are some way off agreeing a fee for Brennan Johnson. Nottingham Forest are standing firm over their £40 million asking price. Personal terms will not be an issue as Brennan is keen on the move.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense that would balk at that kind of price right now. I think it's very, very expensive for a player who right now, I like him, but I think he's still got to show more. And when it comes to like a data-led approach, I think if you're talking about 40 million from Brennan Johnson, I like him as a player. I think he's done pretty well since he's come into the Premier League. But if we're talking like a data-led approach, it doesn't make too much sense. If you're talking about the eye test and you've got a young English player or young, not English, but homegrown player who can play out front, he can play out wide, he's got pace, I think that all makes sense. But in terms of the data, if Tottenham are like really going for this like data-led approach, like they're saying, if you look at his underlying stats for like take-ons and chances created and things like that, then it does leave a lot to be desired, and you're talking about a big fee for him. But if you are looking for a young, homegrown player in the Premier League who can play up front and out wide, who's got pace, then the deal kind of does make sense. But I don't know. I've still got my question marks, but I would be excited about the signing, but I do have a few question marks about it.
Yeah, look, I think there'll always be question marks. As he's only had 1 year in the Premier League, albeit it was quite impressive for someone coming into the league at his age after a stunning season in the Championship. I mean, I think you even put him as your one to watch at the beginning of last season. And I think he probably met your expectations probably in what he did produce in the league last year. And he's playing for a Nottingham Forest who are not a front foot team, not dominating possession team. And I think like if you put him in a Spurs team, the way we like to play our football at the moment, I think he could really flourish. I really do.
I actually think he might have been more suited to us under Conte in a weird way. He's in transitional play. I think he's more suited to that kind of game than how we're going to play under Ange. Not to say he can't do it at all. I think we can probably fit him in. I don't know. It just doesn't scream to me like, okay, this is like the perfect fit for our team. But maybe it's something for Ange to work with. But it just doesn't seem to be like a data-led signing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the actual data, how he stacks up to wingers with the data that we do have access to. I don't know if they're looking at data that we don't have access to or what a data-led approach actually means in terms, because we can look at the data till the cows come home, but I don't know if that's the same data that they're looking at. I just don't know. So I don't know. It's hard to say in that sense. But when you're looking at what he actually produced on a football pitch, and also when you're looking at Nottingham Forest, who usually do play on the transition, I've never seen him play in a possession-based team, so we don't actually know. Yeah,
the only problem I would say, like just on the eye test that I have, is when I see him play out wide, I don't see him beating his fullback often enough, like on a consistent basis, although he does do it sometimes. And then when he's playing up front, I think he's good, but he's like one of those strikers, a bit like Rashford, who's really good up front when he's got space, but as soon as that space clogs up, he becomes a bit ineffective. So something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about someone who could be potentially going the other way in the Brennan Johnson deal, and that is Davinson Sanchez. As Tom Riley says that Nottingham Forest are keen on adding centre-backs, and Davinson Sanchez is one of the possible players who could be involved in a deal for Brennan Johnson to join Spurs. So if they're looking for around £40 million for Brennan, what are you saying? Something like 25 million, 30 million plus Sanchez, something like that.
Sounds good to me. I would take that. I think we probably look. We had a bid accepted by Spartak for 12 million for Sanchez. Obviously, maybe they paid a bit more to try and get him to the Russian league, and it didn't quite happen. Whether Nottingham Forest are willing to go that high at the moment, given how his form has been over the last few years, remains to be seen. But his obviously pre-season's been very impressive. I think the way he plays would definitely complement Steve Cooper and how he wants to play with his defence, especially if he's playing a back three as well. That might help him a bit. So I think it would be a good signing for Forest, and I think it does make sense.
Well, can't we just do like Spence and Dyer plus like 15 million for him or something? Spence and Dyer plus 20 million or something like that.
I reckon if we're going to do it anyway, it'll probably be like separate deals. That's how Tottenham like to do it. Daniel Levy doesn't like to do it in one deal because he probably always feels like he's going to lose part of the negotiation if he does it all in one deal. So you're probably going to do it in separate.
Look, lose part of the negotiation and get your targets in. That's what I say. Let's talk about Jed Spence now, as Ali Gold says that Spence does have interest from some clubs in the Championship and Italy, but is understood to be currently unsure about leaving the Premier League. I mean, at some point, this guy is going to need to further on his career.
Yeah, and I'll be surprised if Forest don't come back in for him. He played under Steve Cooper at Forest, and he was very good there.
Yeah,
they're still playing the same three at the back system. They've got Aurier, who's actually doing quite a decent job, but obviously Spence will be looking at thinking, I can get into that team with Aurier there. They could do with the obviously they got Nico Williams as well, but they could do with someone like Jed Spence bringing him back. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be back on the table. But yeah, like even if that doesn't come off, like even if it's not a Premier League move, like I wouldn't go back to the Championship if I'm Jed Spence unless there's literally nothing. I wouldn't go back to the Championship.
There's interest from Italy, apparently.
Yeah, so
would you go Serie A?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
Depends who it is, I guess.
I still think you can progress your career out in Italy, and I think this is still a good league. So I would be looking just to move out of Tottenham right now. He ain't getting in the Spurs team. Ange hasn't been impressed with him, so I think he just needs to move. I think from Tottenham's point of view, a loan move probably makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, weren't Nottingham Forest like really keen on bringing him in when Spurs wasn't it us and Nottingham Forest really going for him last summer? So what could have changed in a year? Maybe something has happened behind the scenes with Spence that we don't know about.
Potentially, or maybe the fact that he rejected them, and I don't know, maybe that still stings a bit for some reason with Steve Cooper. I wouldn't think that he would have held that against him, deciding to join Tottenham instead of Forest. So, yeah, maybe there is something more going on. There is something weird with Spence. It's just like not fancied by the managers. I don't know. It's just there is something a bit like because he came in with such high expectations, and he's barely featured at all for Tottenham. In this
yeah, and there's one thing like Conte not fancying him, but Conte and Postecoglou not fancy him. That's rings alarm bells to me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Bryan Gil now, as Ali Gold says that Tottenham winger Bryan Gil is also approaching the end of his recovery following a groin operation and could yet depart the club in the coming weeks if a suitable offer arrives. Dan Kilpatrick says Gil and Sessegnon are likely to stay put as they recover from surgery, although the former could be fit in a couple of months, so there is a chance a club could be tempted by a season-long loan. So Ali Gold says he's approaching the end of his recovery, and Dan Kilpatrick says he's still out for another couple of months.
Yeah, so very different conflicting reports there, although he did post an image saying recovery soon, so yeah. I don't know who's more accurate there. Part of me feels like if Gil does leave before we get a chance to see him under Ange, it's always going to be a bit like what could have been, because I feel like he actually could fit what Ange likes in his wingers, and we know he's a player who's quite good with the ball at his feet. He's got good dribbling ability, so I would love to see him for Ange, but again, we got a lot of wingers right now at the club. We're looking to bring another one in as well. So again, he's not going to get too much game time, I would imagine, unless there are injuries and stuff. So for his own development, I think a permanent at this rate. He's had 2 loan moves since he's been here. Come back again, and again he's looking like he's going to be unfancied. I just think for his own career, to stop it stagnating, he needs a permanent move. It's
a shame because when Ange came in, he was one of the players that I thought could really flourish under him, to be honest. I think that the skill set and the attributes that he does have, I think could work really well in a system. He's a high pressing forward. He's good on the ball as well. It's hard to get the ball off him at times. And also his quality as well on the ball, I think, is fairly good. We saw at the back, just before he went on his loan in January, he was really starting to knuckle down the Premier League and show some good performances. I remember that one at Palace away. And I just feel like he should be given a go, to be honest. We spent a lot of money on him. Lamela plus 25 million, I think it was. And the guy's young with good attributes. So I thought he was a player that Ange would really like, to be honest.
I agree. but it looks like we want to sign another one, and there's definitely no room if that's the case.
Yeah.
If no one comes in and then he comes back and then he's fit again and he comes back into the squad, maybe there's a chance for him. But even then, he's got Solomon, Perisic, Son's looking like a winger at the moment. You've got Kulusevski there, so he's got a lot of players he's got to battle against.
Yeah. Let's talk about Japhet Tanganga. Ali Gold says that Tanganga has suitors at home in the Premier League and in Italy. Postecoglou must decide whether he can allow all three centre-backs, Tanganga, Dyer and Sanchez, to leave in the same window. Yeah. Well, if Carlsberg made windows, three of those will be going out.
Yeah, I mean, only if we allow all three to go, that means we need to sign two, because we'd only have two centre-backs, right?
Yeah.
Got no one else, just
unless
Van der
you count Ashley Phillips as one.
Unless you count Ashley Phillips as maybe a fourth choice, potentially. So I don't think all three are going to be left. I think one of them's staying. I'm not sure which one, but I think one of them will stay. I wouldn't mind it being Tanganga, I guess, but I guess Sanchez has shown more so far. But Tanganga, he only had that one appearance, didn't he, in the West Ham, and we haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
So I don't know about him as well. Like, I think he's got the attributes to play how Ange wants his centre-backs to play, but he just hasn't got the game time to be getting into his rhythm, and his career's badly stagnated, unfortunately for him, and he just seems to have declined a bit as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I've said it many a time, I don't think Spurs have aided his development anywhere near well enough, to be honest. And every other kind of youth player that's come and progressed at Tottenham have all had good loan spells where they go and get minutes consistently, and he just hasn't had that. He's just had a bit part role on the bench and basically used as and when we have injuries. So we haven't aided his development whatsoever here at Tottenham, which is a big shame.
The fact that he's kind of in a weird way not being relied on, but the fact that he's been an option for the first team has held him back in a way.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Troy Parrott. Ali Gold says that Parrott is being chased by Rotterdam among other clubs in the Eredivisie and the Bundesliga, and I think you're probably getting to a point now, and you start to think, is Troy Parrott ever gonna really excel at Tottenham?
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't. I think he's been injured, hasn't he, over pre-season? But we didn't see any.
The guy never stops getting injured.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think if we sell him, I would like to just put a buyback clause there just in case, because strikers are hot commodities, and if you have one, look, he is a young striker who's played for Ireland. He's scored goals for Ireland. I know he hasn't really done it in his loan spells in the Championship, but if he does somehow, a bit like Harry Kane, find a home somewhere and start playing really well, I would love just to have a buyback clause just in case he starts to really sprout, and then we could buy him back and have him be part of the squad. But at this point, again, definitely no point him hanging around. The loan spells haven't gone well for him. Maybe he just needs to find a home right now, where he knows he's going to be a permanent home there, and he can really start to find his feet.
The factor of the matter is, the injury problems are holding him back massively, because any time he seems to go on a good run in any of the loan spells, he either gets injured, the manager gets sacked, they change their philosophy. I mean, it's been very hard for Troy Parrott, and I feel like the loan moves that we have sent him on probably haven't been the right clubs for him to really develop properly. And probably a move with a buyback option is probably the best course of action at this point. And let's talk about this interesting topic about Scott Munn. Dan Kilpatrick says that Scott Munn lacks the extensive contacts of Spurs managing director Fabio Paratici, who last summer arranged loan moves for Ndombele and Winks in his native Italy, as well as deals to send Reguilon and Giovanni Lo Celso to Spain. And you're looking at what Paratici has done at Spurs, and it all seems to be coming together now, doesn't it? And it looks as though the job that he has been doing has been absolutely brilliant. And Scott Munn lacking these contacts, I mean, it's kind of showing now with all the players that we're trying to get out the door.
But he's not a sporting director, is he? So I guess it depends what his role really is. Has he even officially started yet? I don't even know. I can't even keep up anymore with the hierarchy and all these different moving parts. But we're supposed to be looking at sporting director right now. Apparently Daniel Levy is still heading all the deals. So I don't understand why Munn would need to have the contacts of Paratici if that's not his role. I think his role is something different. It's even above transfers. It's like the whole footballing kind of I don't know, I wouldn't say philosophy, but it's more like the sports marketing and things like that. So I don't know about Scott Munn, but we definitely need a sporting director because we're clearly having trouble completing all these deals. Dan Kilpatrick said in his article that there's a feeling inside the game that Daniel Levy asks for way too much when it comes for outgoings, and so it's not hard to believe that, is it? Because we've seen that previously, and look how many players we've been able to get rid of. We've hit Winks and Roden, and that's it. So it's been impossible to shift apparently all these other outgoings that we're so desperate to get rid of, and it's no surprise when we're hearing now that a lot of clubs feel like he asked for too much, and this is the consequence.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's move on to the last topic of the update regarding James Maddison's injury. We brought you yesterday that it looks though he will be probably out till the Burnley game, and he wasn't noticed or he wasn't in training today, so that pretty much confirms he's probably going to be out for this weekend.
Yeah, I remember Paul O'Keefe saying in midweek that there's a slight chance he'll be available for the weekend, but it seems optimistic, and it seems as though that has come to pass. He didn't take part in training, so it seems as though Andrew's got a decision to make this weekend. I guess we'll have him confirmed by him tomorrow in the press conference, but it's either going to be a big opportunity for Lo Celso or potentially Kulusevski moving inside, and a big opportunity for maybe Solomon or maybe even Perisic can come in. He does have a bit of a decision to make. I hope he goes to Lo Celso and gives him some game time in his preferred position, but I don't think it's a complete foregone conclusion.
All right. Well, if you are new around here, do check out our brand new website, WeAreTottenhamTV.co.uk, where we bring you up-to-date blog posts of everything going around Tottenham, and also our brand new channel called On The Ball, where we focus on football outside of Tottenham. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.